Monarchy. Monarchy is one of humanity's oldest political systems. It's ruled by a royal family. Power usually passes from parent to child, creating dynasties that can last for centuries. But monarchies aren't all the same. There's absolute and constitutional monarchies. In an absolute monarchy like Saudi Arabia, the king's word is law. In a constitutional monarchy like the United Kingdom, the monarch's role is mostly ceremonial, while elected leaders run the government. Monarchies often symbolize tradition and unity, reminding citizens of their shared history. Whether they truly rule or simply reign, monarchs still represent a living link between a nation's past and its present. Democracy. Democracy means power rests in the hands of the people. It's the idea that ordinary citizens, not kings or generals, decide how they're governed. The word comes from Greek: demos, people, and kratos, power. In ancient Athens, where it began, citizens gathered in open squares to vote directly on laws. Today, most countries use representative democracy, where people elect leaders to speak and act on their behalf. What defines democracy isn't just elections, it's voice. It's the freedom to protest, question authority, and choose again. It's messy, slow, and full of arguments, but that's its strength. Because in a democracy, disagreement isn't disobedience, it's participation. Republic. A republic looks a lot like a democracy, but with an extra layer of protection, the rule of law. Here, the people elect leaders, but even those leaders must obey the same laws as everyone else. The Constitution stands above all, setting limits that no one can cross, not even the president. Think of it as democracy with a referee, fair play, not mob rule. The United States, India, and France are some examples. In a true republic, freedom doesn't depend on who's in charge. It depends on how firmly laws hold everyone accountable. It's the people's voice, protected by the power of law. Oligarchy. An oligarchy is a government where power rests in the hands of a small, privileged group, usually the wealthy, influential, or well-connected. These few make the big decisions, often to protect their own interests rather than the people's. Think of it as democracy flipped upside down. Instead of many voices shaping power, only a handful whisper in its ear. Oligarchies can hide behind elections or titles, but real influence stays concentrated at the top. Ancient Sparta was one example, and many modern states still show traces of it when money or influence quietly decides who truly rules. Aristocracy. Aristocracy literally means rule by the best, from the Greek aristos, excellent, and kratos, power. In theory, it's government by the most capable and educated. In practice, it often became rule by birth, where noble families held land, titles, and authority simply because of their lineage. Medieval Europe thrived on this system, where aristocrats advised kings and dominated politics. Unlike oligarchies driven by wealth, aristocracies were built on heritage and social class. Today, most have faded, replaced by merit-based systems, but echoes remain wherever privilege still outweighs ability. Theocracy. A theocracy is a government where religion isn't just a belief system, it's the law. Leaders claim authority from God or a sacred text, and religious institutions often guide political decisions. Iran and the Vatican are modern examples, each blending faith and governance differently. In a theocracy, moral codes become legal codes, and challenging authority can be seen as challenging the divine itself. For some, it offers spiritual unity and order. For others, it limits freedom and diversity. It's where the pulpit and the parliament share the same seat. Authoritarianism. In an authoritarian system, one ruler or a small group holds most of the power, and citizens have little say in how they're governed. Elections, if they exist, are often controlled or symbolic. The leader decides what's right, and opposing voices are silenced. Freedom of speech, media, and protest? Usually restricted. But here's the catch. Authoritarian governments often justify control by promising stability, order, or economic progress. It's the kind of rule where people may live peacefully, as long as they don't question power. Think of it as control disguised as protection. Totalitarianism. If authoritarianism is tight control, totalitarianism is total control. Here, the government dominates every part of life: politics, media, education, even personal beliefs. The state decides what's true, what's right, and who's loyal. North Korea is a modern example, where the leader is portrayed almost like a god, and citizens live under constant surveillance. Propaganda replaces news, and fear replaces freedom. Totalitarian regimes aim not just to rule the people, but to own their thoughts. It's the extreme end of centralized power, a world where the government watches and no one dares to watch back. Anarchy. Anarchy means total absence of government or authority. No leaders, no laws, no one in charge. To some, it sounds like freedom, everyone deciding for themselves. But without order, chaos often follows. No police, no structure, just survival of the strongest or smartest. However, some anarchists argue it can work in small, cooperative communities where people self-govern through trust and mutual respect. In reality, though, large-scale anarchy rarely lasts. Sooner or later, power fills the vacuum. It's the wild edge of politics, where freedom and disorder walk hand in hand. Military rule. In a military government, the army takes charge, usually after overthrowing a civilian leader. Generals or officers justify their takeover as a move to restore order or fight corruption. Civil rights are often suspended, elections paused, and dissent crushed. Decisions come from military command, not public vote. While some citizens may welcome short-term stability, military rule often silences democracy in the long run. Examples include past regimes in Myanmar, Egypt, and Nigeria. It's government by discipline and force, when soldiers trade their uniforms for suits but not their command structure.